In today's video, we're going to learn how you can procedurally create this kind of clouds and you can add it to any scene that you already have existing. So this is how it looks without the clouds, and this is how it looks by adding in the clouds that we're going to learn in this video. To start off, we've already set up a scene, which could be any 3D model that you have. But in our case, we just have an image that's set as a plane and the shading type has been set to emission so that we can see it without light. Now we've set up a camera so that we can actually see it, and we have our plane, which is our cloud. For now, we're going to disable this plane and create the material from scratch. So let's switch on overlays and just Shift A and add in a plane. Let's take the plane, grab it on the Y-axis and just grab it on the Z-axis and shift it just above our image, and then scale it up so that you can actually see that it is covering the basic sky region of our image. Once we've scaled it up, we have to actually give it its material. So let's create a new material over here and name the material clouds. So now let's go ahead and expand our shader editor. If you don't have this window open already, you can always click and drag from the joint of two windows to create a new window. And now hit period on the numpad to centralize our view, and then hit Shift A and search for a noise texture. Similarly, hit Shift A and search for a gradient texture. Then we can search for a color ramp as well, and we can search for a mix RGB. If you have the node wrangler switched on, you can hit Ctrl T to get the mapping and texture coordinate nodes and change it from generated to object. But in case you don't have node wrangler switched on, then you can just search for the mapping nodes and search for the texture coordinates and then connect the generated to the vector for the noise texture and place the vector into the vector. Now you can take the color of the noise texture, place that into the color ramp, and you can also Shift D the color ramp, place it down here and connect the color of the gradient texture into the color ramp over here as well. Now we can go ahead and connect this color ramp into the emission socket as well as the alpha socket of the principal BSDF. So another thing that we have to do in order to make this work is make sure that we have alpha switched on in our material properties. So we have to scroll down over here and change the blend mode to alpha blend. Similarly, our shadow mode, we have to switch to none. So now we can actually see what this looks like, and clearly this does not resemble clouds. So the first thing that we have to do is reduce the amount of white. So let's take our color ramp and just drag it in a little bit. This much seems fine. After that, let's go ahead and increase the detail, and I think increasing the detail all the way to 15 works pretty well. Then we can go ahead and just increase the roughness as well to maybe something like 0.6, and also give it a little bit of distortion. Something like 0.3 might work well. Now again, this seems like there's a little bit too many clouds. So let's take this and just grab it a little bit more, and that's all you really need to do. We can always change the noise texture from 3D to 4D so that we get an extra W slider, which can act as a variation selector. But despite being a variation selector, we can actually use it to create a lot of realism when actually animating the values. So we'll keep it at 0 for now. Once we're done with that, you see the problem right now is that we get these sharp edges at the edges of the plane. So in order to remove those sharp edges, we have to include this gradient texture that we've created over here. Right now it's set to linear. We have to change it from linear to spherical, and then change this color ramp from linear to B-spline and just drag this in a little bit. After that, we can go ahead and change this mixed RGB node to multiply, put the color into the bottom socket over here, change the factor all the way to 1, and then take this color and place it into the first socket of the color ramp. Now we can take this color and place it into both the emission and the alpha. So now you see you don't get those sharp edges anymore, and it looks pretty cool. The next thing that we want to do is actually animate the clouds. So in order to do that, we can go ahead and take the location of this noise texture and just keyframe the value on any of the axes. So we're going to go ahead and keyframe the X value for now. So we're going to start off with the value 0 at frame 1 and just tap I over the mapping coordinates and make sure that you have the mapping node selected so that you can see the keyframes down here. Then let's go to the last frame and change that to something not too large, because small values make quite a lot of changes. So let's start off with 0.2 and then hit I. So now let's go down here, hit T and change it to linear. So now you can actually see the clouds moving in one particular direction. Now if you feel like this is too slow, make sure that you have the Playback type set to frame dropping so that you actually see what it looks like in real time. In case it's too slow, you can go ahead and change the values. But I think this is fast enough for what I want to do. The next thing is, right now, actual clouds would not move just like this. There's always a lot of turbulence in the air, and that is where the W slider actually comes in. So you can go ahead to the first frame, hit I on the W slider, and then go to the last frame and make the W value something like 0.1 and then hit I. So now when you actually play the video, the clouds would seem to actually evolve over time. And that is what gives it that realistic effect. Make sure that you change this also to linear instead of Bezier. So that evolution over time sells the realism of this effect. And since it's just a plane, it can be added anywhere and it's a fairly small node setup that doesn't take too much of computational power, and it's really fast and adds that extra sauce to your renders. So I really hope that you learned something from this video and it was a quick tip that helps you out. We will be releasing a lot more tutorials, so stay tuned, subscribe, share this video to somebody who might actually benefit from it, and that will help quite a bit. Until next time, stay creative.